My guest is Jocelyn Taylor, owner of Popped Closet, which is an organizing company. So you're a professional organizer.
Yes, that's right.
Okay. So this is still winter, however, starting to think about spring cleaning. And is that what a lot of people are tackling these days?
Absolutely. I think a lot of people are getting into their decluttering and kind of getting ahead of that spring cleaning and getting rid of things while they, before they start the spring cleaning.
So decluttering, I tend to maybe go too far the other way. I get rid of things and then kind of wish I had them back again, but that's maybe a little too extreme. I find it liberating to take that box off to Value Village or Salvation Army or whoever wants it and just get rid of stuff. And I find it very liberating.
Absolutely. I think that's what my clients always say as well, that it's just so exciting. Once they kind of get rid of it and they make that decision, they feel free and they feel like there's just a weight lifted. Right. So that's kind of the goal with decluttering, right? We want to make sure that your house feels light, that you're less chaotic, that it feels just calm and is a good place for you to be.
I have friends, and every surface of her house is covered with either plates or doodads or every surface, and I find it stresses me a little bit being there because there's no place to rest my eyes.
Yes, absolutely. There's something to be said for that, right? There are different people who love that clutter and they love to have a lot of different things and kind of that maximalist style that they're calling it now. But I think for most people, like as calm as it can be is, and having those free surfaces and having places that you can, like you said, rest your eyes is exactly what you're going for. And there's got to be a balance between the things that you love, but then also what do you actually use? And are you keeping it because you love it, or are you keeping it because it was a gift or because you spent a lot of money on it? And I think sometimes we get confused with the sentimentality of certain things instead of actually, oh, I love this, I use it, that's what I'm going to keep.
Oh, that's a good point, yeah. I think part of the motivation too is the less stuff you got, the less you got to clean.
Absolutely.
And even if you've got a coffee table that's covered in stuff, that means you got to remove the stuff before you can wipe down the table, and it just takes a whole lot longer, and I've got other things I'd rather do with my time. Personally.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. It's a perfect example.
Right. Yeah. So do you start at a specific room? Is there one room? Do you start with the easiest room, or do you start with the one that's going to have the biggest impact? How do you usually structure this?
So typically we'll start kind of like in the basement or in that storage area, because you want to see how much we can actually keep to store, right?
Oh, right.
So when you start clearing through that stuff, you kind of can, it's a lot easier for people to make decisions, because a lot of it they haven't looked at for years, they're not really using it actively, and a lot of times they forget they had it. So it's kind of like the easier decision making to start down there, and then you also know when you go through the rest of the house, you kind of know, okay, we've got this much room, this is all that we can keep.
And the rest, it's just got to go because
there's no place for it. Because there's no place for it, exactly.
Right. Is a bedroom a good place to start? Kitchen? Living room?
I think, it completely depends on the person. I'd say kitchens are a little bit less, there's less sentimental items, so that can be really easy to kind of go through and say, yeah, you have 5 serving trays of the similar size, we only need 1 or 2, and kind of making those decisions pretty quickly. Whereas I find clothing can be very sentimental, or lots of keepsakes and knickknacks, so sometimes the living room has a lot of photographs or things like that, or, knickknacks from your travels and that kind of thing. So it can be a little bit harder to part with those things. So I like to start where it's as easy as possible and kind of like get that decision making going, because I think once you get into the flow of letting things go, it's a lot easier to continue.
Fine with kitchens. I have this one of my rules is if it doesn't get used every day, it doesn't need to be on the counter.
Absolutely.
And if it doesn't get used once a month, it doesn't need to be in the kitchen. So it goes in the either basement or the shed.
Yeah.
And because me, it is easier to that once a month or every 3 months that you need this appliance or this roasting pan is to go out and get it than having to move it all the time to get at what's behind it.
Actually, yes, definitely. And I also use the top of cupboards, you know, that are kind of a little bit inaccessible, and put that kind of stuff up there so that you're not having to reach for it if you don't have the space other places, or, you know, depending on what the layout is of your kitchen.
And then you just get the ladder out when you
absolutely need it. Exactly.
The roasting pan out of the time. Right.
Yeah.
Is there a rule of thumb on if you haven't used it in X number of months, you really don't need it? Is there a rule of thumb on that?
So I like to say within the year. Sometimes because, you know, some things are seasonal, so you only use them kind of in the summer, or you only use them once a year. Maybe you're hosting a holiday party or something like that. So I kind of say if it hasn't been used in a year, you probably don't need it. But if it is one of those items like, you know, a coffee maker or something like that, that should be kind of like an everyday or every week thing, and you're not using it that often, then maybe it is time to let that go, or say like, I really don't need this.
Do people still have the good set of china, or has that gone by the wayside?
I'd say for the most part it's gone by the wayside. I think a lot of people are either using their china every day as everyday dishes. You know, there's china settings now on dishwashers, so they can kind of still be able to wash it pretty easily, and it's not that much extra work. But, you know, in a lot of older clients' houses, they still have that china set that is, you know, in the cabinet and is only used on special occasions. But I think for most younger people, it's kind of gone by the wayside, they just can't be.
I still have my good china that I got as wedding gifts, and I'd hate to tell you how many years ago that was. And I use it, and I use it fairly frequently, because my theory is, now I put it in the dishwasher, I don't care.
Yeah.
Because my theory is I won't live long enough to see it wear out. So I do use it, because, you know, I came to the realization it was pretty darn expensive when I acquired these pieces as wedding gifts, but now there's no value to them. Nobody wants the stuff.
That's just it. You know, you may as well use it. And if you love the pattern, like, why wouldn't you use the beautiful things that you have, right? Instead of hiding them for a special occasion. Like, let's use the things we love.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I do. It really does look so pretty when you set the table with the good china.
Absolutely.
Right. And I think it makes your guests feel a little bit special as well.
Definitely. And it kind of, even just the everyday, right? You get to be special. It's, you know, they say don't save that outfit, and, you know, we kind of wear your best every day. It's because you feel better, and you can, you know, it really does change the way that your day goes.
Right, absolutely, yeah. So you get the stuff out of your kitchen. Where's a good, where do you get boxes and things to put this stuff in? Where
Like,
is
to donate, you mean?
Yeah.
So I buy a lot of things actually just on Amazon. I'll buy like banker's boxes, but a lot of people have those things already in the house, right? Like if you're kind of decluttering your entire house and you have a few extra totes or bins, that's a great way to take things out in. Also, reusable grocery bags. You know, we've all ended up with so many of those, and those are great things that you can donate them, and then they'll reuse the bags as well and offer those to customers for shopping. So that can be a really great way to kind of take things out of your house in those, without having to have any additional expense.
Another friend of mine, when she does that, she tapes up the boxes, tapes them up really well, so she is not tempted to go back to the box and start rummaging and saying, maybe I'll keep that.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's one of the best things about what I do, because I'll come in and I'll take it with me that same day, so they kind of like, that's it, I've made the decision, it's gone.
It's gone, no looking back.
No looking back. It doesn't sit in your trunk for 3 months and wait for you to
and finally decide that you're
ready to part with it.
Right.
Exactly.
I heard a term recently. It's called Swedish death, or it's some.
I think it's Swedish death cleaning.
That's
Yeah. So kind of the concept of that is that you clean as if you were going to pass in the next few months, right? So you get rid of things, you give things to people who want them, and so that they can enjoy it while you're still around. And you kind of like think about your children or your nieces and nephews who potentially would have to clean out your house one day, and try to get rid of it to alleviate the stress for them, right? And I think it's a really fascinating, it works for some people, and I think it is really kind of a great method to keep things in perspective.
And it's also some of those, the correspondence and the pictures that you never wanted anybody else to ever see.
Exactly.
I better get that stuff out of there.
Start getting rid of that, burn those journals, whatever it is, just get rid of it.
Let them think you were squeaky clean your whole life.
Right? Yeah.
Oh dear, there's so much we can talk about, but if people want to know more about getting organized, they can hire you to do this,
Absolutely.
to help them, or you don't do it for them, you help them do it, right? That's
Exactly.
the
They're
whole point.
always in charge, and what they want to get rid of and how much they want to get rid of is always their decision. It's not going to be a forced or pushed option, but yes, we can kind of help you get organized, help you declutter, help you make those decisions. And I also have a blog that kind of highlights a lot of things as well. So if you're not ready to hire someone, you could kind of do it yourself, and with all the tips and tricks that the professionals use.
And where can I access that blog?
So that's at popcloset.com/blog. But my website, popcloset.com, has all of the information there.
And that's how they can contact you as well.
Absolutely, yep.
Great. This has been so interesting. Thanks so much for coming in.
Thank you so much for having me.